about it later.
Okay. Well, hello and welcome to this week's live stream. Today we are going to be talking about something that I'm super excited about, which is how to change careers and even more importantly, get clarity about the career that's really going to be the best fit for you long term. So thank you for joining me today. And if you're new here, I'm Dr. Lisa Marie Bobby. I'm the founder of Growing Self Counseling and Coaching, host of the Love, Happiness, and Success podcast. And my background, I am a licensed psychologist, a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am also, though, a board certified coach. And I talk with clients routinely about a whole constellation of things. There's love, there's happiness, but also very much about success. Because even though on my podcast and the things that we do here, I am frequently talking about relationships, matters of the heart. Personal growth certainly is also very important. I think that to have a well-rounded, holistic life design, it also needs to include your professional life because that's so important. And so that's why on today's live stream, we're talking about career change, truly how to figure out what you want to do in life, whether it's what you want to do next or how to pull off a big transition. Or even if you're just starting out, really discovering what would you love to do, what would feel meaningful for you, enjoyable for you, and also give you the opportunity to share your gifts and talents with the world because you have them. So I believe that this is so important for us to talk about, truly because we spend so much of our lives working. I mean, even if you're in your 40s or 50s, you still have a long ways to go in your career journey, truly. And so it's really important that we all have some opportunity to get clear about who we are and what it is that we really want to do, so that we can make thoughtful decisions about something as vastly as important as a career. But it is also true, unfortunately, that, many times we are in situations where we need to identify our career path when we are really young, right? I mean, if you go to college, you are probably choosing a major that is going to create a career trajectory for you by the time you're 18, 19, 20 years old maybe. And, our brains are not fully cooked at that point in our lives. Adults, and this is true just like biologically in terms of brain development, our brains do not attain an adult configuration until we are easily in our mid-20s, which for most of us, we are already on a path at that point. And even not, if it's a college type situation, I mean, many people can sort of fall into career paths that are somewhat, just convenient. Like one job leads to another, and then, a friend is working somewhere and there's a situation that pays a little bit better and it's probably okay until finally one day you find yourself doing work that you feel like you didn't really choose intentionally and that you might not even care that much about, or that the role that you're in really doesn't make the best use of your unique gifts and talents, or maybe doesn't really offer you the kinds of opportunities that you would really like to have in life. So it's important, I think, to pause every once in a while and ask yourself if you're happy with where you want to be in life in terms of your career and what it is that you are doing. And I think it's also important for us to be thinking about how everybody is evolving over time, especially when it comes to career. Like we all grow and change so much personally, as we mature, get older, I think the way we show up in relationships obviously evolves over our lifetime. But professional maturity is a real thing too. And I think it's just important because sometimes I found an obstacle that can get in the way of people feeling comfortable with making changes and trying new things or taking chances or doing something new are these old self-limiting beliefs around what it means to stop doing something. And I just want to challenge that for a second because just to consider, even subconsciously, if you have old core beliefs around what it might mean to quit or change careers or abandon something that maybe you've put a fair amount of time and energy into. If there are old narratives around failure or giving up, that could really be an obstacle preventing you from giving yourself permission to explore new things. And for this, I would just like to offer you a different idea, which is that there can be a lot of wisdom actually in quitting things. There is a psychological theory or premise, really, which is related to the value that we give things that we have invested a lot in. And that people tend to perceive things that they've invested a lot in as being more important sometimes than they actually are. But this can lead us to feel attached to things that we've built in the past to the point where it's hard to let go of them. And sometimes it's really important to let go of old things so that we can welcome new things into our lives. And career and our professional trajectory is one of those places where I see that show up a lot. People have invested 5 or 10, years into developing a career and can have a lot attached to the idea of stopping what they're doing in service of doing something new. So I just wanted to say that out loud because I think it's easy, especially with career, to talk a lot about, what you might want to do or how to get clarity, but we don't always dig into the depth of some of the core beliefs and the feelings that are underlying these career-related decisions. And just before we move on to your questions, which I'm very excited about because we're going to be talking about lots of different things, including how to find your passion, whether or not it's too late in life to try new things, how to feel confident in moving forward into a career that you might not know yet is really going to be a good fit for you. We're going to address all of that. But I did first just want to illuminate the importance and just highlight the respect that we all need to have.
Something went wrong. Oops. Please try again.
Siri would like to join our conversation. Siri is not invited. It's a live stream. These things happen. Where was I going with this? The importance of really digging deep into career-related decisions and using this as a really powerful vehicle for personal growth that taps into your feelings, your values, what is personally most meaningful. And that's why, like at my practice at Growing Self, we specialize in love, happiness, and success. But the career counselors on my team are actually licensed therapists. They are qualified mental health providers, but they have specialized degrees in career counseling and professional development, which makes them really different because they bring a lot of depth to the work that many like career coaches or a career counselor who just has a background in HR, this person might be amazingly helpful in figuring out, what should be on your resume or how do we do interview coaching to help you make a great first impression. But it's more superficial than the kinds of things that we tackle at Growing Self and also the kinds of things that we're going to be talking about today on this live stream because there's so much attached to the career decisions that we make. And there can be also a lot of dark emotions attached to being in a position in life where you're not really happy with where you are, but you also don't really know what to do differently or what to do next. And so I think I just want to reassure you that feeling kind of lost or even anxious or sometimes a little depressed in these moments can be really normal, but there's a lot of value of leaning into these dark emotions to listen to them and allow them to inform you and help you make decisions in order to create the kind of life and the kind of career experience that you really want to have, because there's always a path forward if you're open to it. And many times taking risks and getting out of your comfort zone will allow you to experience the success that's often ahead of you if you're willing to go after it. So, anyway, I just wanted to raise all of those ideas before we go into your questions. And if you have questions for me related to, what's going on with your career, or would like my help in sorting through some career-related decisions, I would absolutely love to hear them so that I can speak to them today. So please drop your questions in the chat and we will talk all about it. But to begin, I have had a couple of amazing questions come through already. And so I'd like to highlight these. And let's see here. Pull up my question. The first question that came up today is from a listener who wants to know how she can discover her passion. And this is such an important question, because I think that's the dream for everybody, right? Is to feel really invested and excited in the work that you're doing day to day. So I just want to validate the importance of that. And so, to take this into a deeper level and provide you with some ideas that I hope would be genuinely helpful for you. The first thing, if I were your career counselor and we were sitting down together, I would want to understand what passion means to you. Like when you say, I want to feel passionate about my career, let's unpack that term. When you say passionate, does it mean that you would experience meaning in your work? Like that the work that you are doing is meaningful as per your values and what is truly important to you? Would passion mean that you were experiencing flow, like kind of losing yourself when you were engaged in the work? Or are you thinking, is feeling passionate about my work, does that mean that I would be feeling really happy when I was on the job doing my thing? And I would want to talk through that, because I think that we can all run into trouble when we are chasing feelings. Like there are peak emotional experiences that are amazing and so happy and fun and like we're really enjoying ourselves. And those are different than really satisfying experiences. It's like the difference of eating, some chocolate bomb cake and ice cream kind of thing is like, wow, versus the experience of eating a really good salad. Like they're two totally different things, and we want to have that cake sometimes, but day to day, it's like better all the way around to have the salad, and that can be really enjoyable and really satisfying, but in a calmer, kind of more quiet, sustainable way. And so that is why I would want to talk about what passion means, because if you have ideas about if I were in the right career and I had a role that I was passionate with, if there is even a subconscious equivalence that I would be feeling really happy and excited, engaged, and I would love this, I don't know that that is actually a reasonable expectation, because even in a amazing career that is just right for you, it's going to be a mixed bag in terms of the feeling, right? That there are going to be days where you're like, I am not having a good time and I don't really feel good about this, or this is hard, or it feels like a grind. And if you have made those career choices based on other things that might be associated with passion, like where your values are, what is personally meaningful or interesting to you, or, like those flow experiences, that intersection of your talents and your interests, that is going to be more sustainable, and you'll also have more options. So, but that's why I wanted to unpack, like, when you say passionate, what do you mean? Because you can run into trouble if you are chasing passion that's defined by an emotional experience. But so to crack into this further, if we were in career counseling together and I had the opportunity to sit down and really dig into this with you and ask you some more questions, some of the things that I might put in front of you in terms of experiential activities, and this is something that you could do on your own. You could even journal about it if you wanted to. But one exercise would be to ask yourself, okay, at the end of my life, I am a 100-year-old woman sitting on the porch of my assisted living facility in a rocking chair, and I am watching the sunset, and I know that this is the last sunset I'm going to see. And I'm sitting there and thinking back on my life and the things that I feel the best about, like what are the moments that stand out to me as the times that made my life really enjoyable and worth living. Maybe even if they were the most fun moments, like what felt valuable and worthwhile for you to have invested all that time and your talents. What would that be? Now, I don't know the answer, but that is the kind of thing that we would dive into in, growth-oriented career counseling. And those are the kinds of questions that you could ask yourself if you want to engage in some journaling or some reflection, to help you just crack into this on the meaningful and valuable indexes that we talked about. I think one other thing that can be equally interesting and helpful to think about is actually the opposite of the what do I love and what feels valuable question, but to be asking yourself too, what do I hate? What do I know that I do not like at all? And just thinking back around your occupational history or even just your life experiences, because there's a lot of value in getting really clear about the indexes, like what do I love versus what do I hate? And also, what am I really good at intrinsically versus what am I not good at all? Because ideally, where you want to focus is, if we make a, four compartment grid of, what am I good at and what do I love? That's what you want to focus on. But thinking about what do I hate and what am I bad at can also be incredibly valuable because it provides contrast and it gives you clarity around what kinds of things that you want to stay away from. So that could also be, I think, another productive journaling exercise with you, or also working with a career counselor who can go in and help you, map that out in all four quadrants. And it could include things like, there are many different kinds of assessments and tests that career counselors use that can help you identify your strengths, your personality, also your natural abilities and aptitude, working styles. And so when you get the results of all those assessments back, that can also provide quantitative data that you can put into the mix, as well as these sorts of qualitative explorations that we're talking about here. So that may also be really valuable for you as well. But then very lastly, and then we'll move on to the next question, I would also be super curious to know about your career experiences so far and, what about them feels not passionate? Like, what are you experiencing that leads you to believe you're not passionate about this thing? Versus, are there any times that you can remember or career-related experiences where you really did feel engaged, happy to be there, or like sort of immersed, really interested in what it was that you were doing, or that it felt personally really meaningful, and just begin to explore. Because in career counseling, a lot of times that's what we do. We have to like go into all these nooks and crannies and life histories and hopes and goals and values and strengths, and it's like dumping it all out onto this giant table, making a big mess, and then just sort of looking at what all is there and then beginning to organize it. And through that process, and it is a process, by the way, it is not an event. It takes some time to do this, but we can begin to create organization, almost a pile of possibilities, right? So we can move a lot of things off the table after exploring them and understanding, yeah, this is probably not a thing. So there's a lot of value in understanding what shouldn't be considered as a possibility too, but then being able to hone in on the most auspicious options, the options with the most opportunity, and then do deeper exploration from that point forward. So that may have been more information than you bargained for, but you asked me for advice, and I tend to probably provide a lot of ideas for some of these. So I do hope that that was helpful for you. And let's see, I have another question. And this is from somebody in the chat here. Just let me address this for a second because this is a really good question. A listener asked, how can I overcome my fear of opening my own business and leaving a secure job? And so there are a number of things that are coming up for me here, and I'll just be really honest with you. I mean, I too am an entrepreneur, and I think that it's wise to have legitimate fear about what you're getting into, because there are a lot of realities about owning a business that really do need to be considered, and there are trade-offs. And so, when I'm working with my clients, I mean, one of the things that, and I would want to talk about this with you if we were working together in career counseling, is that there is a difference between anxiety and legitimate fear, which is our emotional guidance system warning us that there may be danger ahead, versus anxiety, which is when we dig into it, we are getting danger signals and warning flare-ups about things that are not actually dangerous. So that's like an anxiety disorder. People's alarm bells are going off without kind of a reality-based reason, versus fear, which is something that's legitimate and that we need to listen to. So that would be the first question that I would have for you. Which of this is anxiety, like, well, what would people think, or, whatever, versus things that you would need to work out as a business owner. And I would also encourage you, and I think business is fantastic. It is wonderful, and I wouldn't be happy having a regular job at this point in my life, because I think that business is so enjoyable. It's meaningful. I am passionate about it. But I would be thinking about that and going into, what are the things that I really enjoy? What do I love? What am I good at? And does that line up with what would be required of me as a business owner? Because many people think about starting their own business because they are good at a thing. Like, that happens frequently in my profession, like being a professional therapist. There are a lot of therapists who start a solo private practice because they want to be therapists and they want to do therapy, under their own thing, and that's fantastic. But they are technicians who may or may not have the business skills or the interest in what is involved in the part of running a business, which is extremely different than what is required to be a good therapist. Not the same thing. So that would be another question that I would have for you. Are you an electrician that wants to start a business being an electrician, or do you want to get into business for its own enjoyment because you would like that experience too? But to do some thinking about, what would that be like day to day? Would you be doing finance, sales and marketing, right? I mean, that's different than being an electrician or whatever. So those are just some like big picture things to consider. But then the other thing too that I would advise you, if you did decide that you want to make the move, is to put together a very solid business plan. And I would, if it is within your means, be working with a coach, ideally a business coach or a career coach that was knowledgeable in business, who could help you be like, okay, here's where you want to get. And these are all of the things that you would need to do in order to get there, so that you have a lot of clarity about what would be involved. You would have a solid plan in place. And also that you would be going into this with the understanding that, especially in business, whatever you think is going to happen is not going to happen. Like, there's going to be a lot of trial and error, but you still need to make a plan anyway, because that will give you the best chance. But do not quit your day job until you have some income coming from this business. So the idea here is that you want to pull the boat as close to the dock as possible, and before you step off the dock and onto the boat, because you want to make sure that that boat is going to float, essentially. So that would be the safest and least risky way to do this. And of course, starting a business can be a lot of work, but if it is possible to keep the solid thing, have a strong foundation, and then begin working on this business idea. Evenings, weekends, see what you can do. And if it feels like there's energy around it and money starts coming in, there's more of a basis to make that shift altogether. And also, I think that if you can see that, oh, it's working, you will feel more confident in making that shift. That was your original question. How do I feel less anxious about making the shift? You need to see that it actually works, because it might not work. And that, I think, is what fear is telling you and what you should listen to. So finding a way to start a business in this cautious way will help you make reality-based decisions that will ease both anxiety, if that's there, and also respect fear, because that does need to be part of the equation. So awesome question. So again, you guys, today we are talking about your questions related to how to change your career potentially. And so if you have questions for me, I would love to answer them. And here's another one from the comments. Let me see. I have quite a bit of social anxiety, and so work for myself and work from home. This seems to be feeding the bear. I'm thinking of changing. Any tips on this catch-22 situation? This is an awesome question. And I'll just, this isn't just a career related question, although it's certainly career adjacent. But first of all, congratulations to you for being so self-aware on the presence of, social anxiety. And I think being able to have a name for it and understand that this is a thing for you is really, really important. You are using the skill of metacognition, which is thinking about what you're thinking about and being aware of yourself, as opposed to buying into the ideas that social anxiety can produce. So first of all, that is amazing. But secondly, the thing to know about anxiety is, well, you're exactly right. I mean, you don't need me to tell you this. You told me this, is that it's feeding the bear. You have so much insight into what's going on, and you're exactly right. Anxiety perpetuates when we protect anxiety. When we modify our lives in order to protect ourselves from anxiety producing experiences, we are enshrining anxiety. We are making it bigger and stronger. And it's really a paradox, because anxiety makes us want to avoid things. Anxiety tells us, no, it's not safe, don't go there. And so we listen. But the actual path of healing anxiety and resolving it is flying into the storm and going out into the world and having corrective emotional experiences that rewire your brain, that make you feel safer in the world. A more dramatic example of this would be something called exposure therapy. If somebody has a phobia, they have a spider phobia or whatever, and they have gone through great lengths to protect their life experience from having anything to do with spiders. Exposure therapy is, let's talk about spiders. Let me show you a picture of a spider. Here's a little container with a spider in it. Like, that is actually the therapy, because when you do have a lot of anxiety, you need to have these new experiences in order to heal it. And so with social anxiety, it's also absolutely true. The path to healing social anxiety is in small baby steps and in emotionally safe and appropriate ways. Start putting yourself out into the world where you can have interactions with other humans, where you walk away being like, okay, I'm all right. You do not need to do a cannonball into the deep end of the pool and, get a job as some, I don't know, bartender that has to talk to 200 people a night. I mean, like, that does not need to happen. But I would strongly advise you, if you're not working with a really good therapist already who knows how to assist with social anxiety specifically, would definitely do that and look for cognitive behavioral therapy for social anxiety. But also, for this therapist and for you to be challenging yourself to put yourself out there in safe ways and getting a different job that would put you in situations where you need to talk to people day to day and, have those anxious moments and then, all right, I'm okay. But to do that numerous times a day would be incredibly healing for you. And it wouldn't probably not just help your career, but you in terms of your life path. And that would be my hope for you. So thank you very much for asking that question. I appreciate it. And good luck to you. You have so much insight. You're already on your way. All right. So, and today we're talking about your questions related to maybe making a career change. And so if you have things on your mind, I hope you get in touch with me. You can leave your questions in the comments. Or even, a follow-up by an email, hello@growingself.com, if you'd like to send them to me. And maybe I'll even address it on an upcoming episode of the Love, Happiness, and Success podcast. So don't be shy about reaching out. But here's another wonderful question that I want to read for you guys. I had a passion for a job, and 15 years later, I've lost a lot of my passion. How do I figure out if it's right to leave my profession and grieve the loss of this passion? That's a really interesting question. This is another one of these situations where, like, I would love the opportunity to sit down and talk with you and unpack this with you a little bit more, because my sense is that there's a lot here. And without knowing more of the details and the context about what it is that you're dealing with, it's a little difficult to speak to, but I'll share a few things in general. We know that feeling of passion and engagement and excitement is very strongly linked to feeling like you are still growing and developing, and there are challenges in your path. You're learning new things, and that it doesn't actually feel entirely comfortable. We think about things that are comfortable as like being the ideal, and they're actually not, because when we get very comfortable and when we know we can do this all in our sleep, it starts to feel boring. We start to feel checked out and disinterested. And I kind of wonder if that is what has happened in this career trajectory that you're describing, that for whatever reason, you did not have more opportunities to continue growing and pursuing mastery and kind of being on that growth edge, which is very energizing when you actually don't know exactly what you're doing and you have some things to figure out and it feels like there's some risk involved. That fuels passion. So, my first question for you is whether or not there are opportunities in your current career path to get connected with some of that, right? I mean, I don't know, and I'm not sure if you're still here in this chat with us, but could you tell us a little bit more in the chat, like what type of career you're in and whether or not there are other professional development opportunities for you? Because like again, it sounds weird, but you almost have to have a little bit of fear, a little bit of uh, uncertainty. To be uncomfortable is kind of important in a long-term career path that continues to be interesting and exciting and elicit feelings of passion, or one that is really personally meaningful. That is another path to passion, is when even if you have it all locked down and it's like the same thing every day and you're super good at what you do, if you can stay connected to that emotionally because of it being attached to personal meaning, that can be another way of reigniting passion. So anyway, if again, I don't know if you're still here, but if that's something that you would feel comfortable sharing, I'd be happy to speak to it. But so that would be the first path to reigniting passion. And I would explore that because I think that, another reality when it comes to career is there is almost a myth in career development work, career exploration, that it's all about the goodness of fit. If I were in the right career, I would be happy, I would feel fulfilled, I would be engaged, I would experience flow and passion and all of these things. And I think that finding the right fit is very important, but it is not the whole story any more than finding the right partner is the ultimate secret to having a good relationship. This will mess people up with relationships too. If I find the person with whom I am perfectly compatible, my soulmate, my twin flame, my whatever, it's going to be so easy, so fun. We'll always feel connected. We won't fight. Everything is going to be great. And so when people get into real relationships with other humans and it isn't always fun and great and easy, and there is actually stuff to work on, that they can get tricked into believing, oh, well, I wonder if I'm actually with the wrong person, that we're not quite compatible, that there's somebody else in the world better for me, versus the reality, which I think anybody who's been in a long-term happy relationship knows, that that is not how it works. Like, yes, you can find somebody, that you could have a solid foundation with to begin with, but then that's when the work starts. And really, it is a journey of growth. How do I become a better communicator? How do I become more loving? How do I work through conflicts more productively? How do I become kinder and more generous and be a better partner, to give and receive love and really build a good relationship? The same is true with career questions. Many people get to a certain point and they're like, I do not like this. And it becomes this idea in their mind of, I need a different job. I need a different career. I need to, do something completely different. Sometimes that is true. And again, for the reasons that we mentioned in the beginning, I mean, it is easy to get into a career trajectory when you're very young and then you look up 10 or 15 years later and you're like, what am I doing? Like, totally valid. But it is also true that people can get into a career that is actually a really good career for them and get into it and start not having a good time and believe, well, this is not the right thing for me. And start telling themselves stories that they need to make big dramatic changes, when actually the truth can be much more deeper. Like, what do I need to do in order to have this feel different for me? And what are the professional and also personal growth experiences that are available to me in this situation? Like, for example, many people who become unhappy with their career or professional role do so because they're having challenging relationships at work, can be one of them, or maybe feeling stressed and overwhelmed, like they're struggling to prioritize all this work, or maybe, running into skills deficits where they're being asked to do things that they don't fully know how to do. They feel unequipped to do. Like, there can be so many different things here. And so I think there's a really interesting growth opportunity for people in thinking about, okay, so what is it about the way that I'm showing up in these professional relationships that is, at least in part, contributing to the experiences that I'm having? And what could I experiment with doing differently that would help me change that? Do I need to be more assertive? Do I need to have different boundaries? Do I need to communicate more openly about things? Or is there opportunities for collaborative problem solving that I'm not taking advantage of? What could we make different? And the outcome of that is that it could change the on the job experience that people are having, that make it feel more positive and beneficial. But at the same time, they're also really developing themselves in the process. I mean, somebody who gets better at saying no or setting boundaries on the job is absolutely going to be able to take that into all these other areas of life, because our personal and professional development is not a separate thing. And so I would also encourage you just to think about whether or not there are professional development opportunities in your current career that you could explore that could change it. But it is also absolutely true that sometimes things run its course, and you have changed since you first signed on in this profession. The world has changed. It's a different experience, and one that you don't really want to do anymore. And in those cases, it can be a wise move to say goodbye. There's actually a really good book that I read recently. It's called Necessary Endings. The author is Dr. Henry Cloud, and he talks a lot about the wisdom in knowing when to put things down and when to say goodbye, be it a job, a relationship, other things, and a lot of really interesting perspective. And if you do decide that that is the best choice for you, you might want to check that out, because I think that could help you come to peace with the need and legitimacy of that decision too. So you have lots of options. Again, we've opened a number of doors, and if I was your career counselor, I would want to explore every single one of these with you. But I hope that just talking through this today in a live stream setting was helpful enough. Okay, let's see. I think we probably have time for one more question. Let's see. All right. So one more question. Is 36 too old to go back to medical school, or go to medical school, is the question. This is also a fantastic question, and I think that this is a really important one because it taps into some of the mindset growth opportunities that we were talking about before, and how our assumptions and self-limiting beliefs can really prevent us from making good values-based choices. So the first thing that I would want to bring up to this person is, first of all, have you done a lot of soul searching and consideration around what being a doctor means to you, what it would be like, and would this genuinely be this beautiful intersection of your talents, your abilities, your values, what is meaningful to you, and what would serve the world, particularly with things that have a title that comes with a lot of prestige or social power. Some people can be attracted to careers, at least in part, for that reason. And that is one of the things that I would honestly want to talk with you about if I was your career counselor. Like, what does this mean to you, this idea of being a doctor? And just to talk through that, because as you know, I mean, going to medical school and then the internships and the residencies and all the things, it is a ton of work. And so I would be curious, and I would want to make sure with you that this was actually attached to more substantial things, and also that it was attached to the things that you are really good at, like being a doctor, a lot of chemistry, math. They're scientists, truly. And so is that part of your innate skill set? Because if it isn't, it's going to be harder than it has to be. But also, checking in about what your vision for the future is. Like, what's your why behind wanting to be a doctor in terms of what your life would be like on the other side? And have you thought about, the client population that you would want to serve? Would you want to be an ER doc, a dermatologist? Like, what are we talking about here? And really do some envisioning of that life path and what those experiences would be like. In order for you to get clarity on, this is actually really important to me. Because one of the things that will help answer this question, is 36 too old to go back, is to clarify for yourself if the why is truly powerful and important. If it is, and obviously not me or any other career counselor can tell you what to do with your life, like nobody else can make these decisions for you. But one idea I would encourage you to consider that goes back to this like mindset idea, and this actually isn't mine. This I can't remember what I was in. There was some kind of training or event. I'm a total nerd, so I love going to learning events, like this one, or different things that challenge me to learn and grow. That's where I feel really excited and interested in. Anyway, so I was at one thing, and there was a woman who was an older woman. I think that she was probably in her 70s at the time of the presentation, and there was something that came up related to that. And somebody had asked that question, like pivoting careers or changing things, and something a lot. Well, we could just use this example. I'm 36 years old. Is it too late to go to medical school? I won't graduate from medical school until I'm 40, and then I will have to do internship, residency. I'm going to be probably 44 by the time I'm messing around with that. And then, there's also other stuff that needs to happen. I will probably be 50 years old by the time I am solid in this career path, if I go back to school when I'm 36. So the new perspective that I would like to share with you is that you are going to be 50 years old anyway. And would you like to be a 50-year-old doctor or a 50-year-old not doctor? So when we've been thinking about what's your why, the vision for your life, go out to being 50 years old and what your life would be like as a doctor or not as a doctor. You stay the course that you're on, because you're going to be 44 anyway. You're going to be 50 anyway. And to be making decisions like from the future looking back instead of from where you are now looking forward can be a really powerful exercise. And so that kind of exploration might be valuable to do with a really good career counselor, but also even to do some journaling and visioning about that, and connecting with your future you, and allowing that, older, wiser version of yourself that exists in the future to give you some career advice. So those are my thoughts. And I think that's probably about all the time that we have for today. But lastly, I just do want to share, and I think I hope that what's come out today over the course of this conversation reinforces your understanding that career-related growth work goes so much deeper than taking an assessment or writing a resume or, looking at jobs boards and seeing what sounds interesting. There is so much incredibly important personal work attached to this. Everything from, reconfiguring what you want to design your life around, digging into what is most meaningful and important to you, not just where your talents lie, but where your values lie. I mean, that what do I want to do with my life? This time that I have on this planet, what do I want the impact of this to be? Who do I want to serve? What would be meaningful for me on that mission? What is my mission, right? That is really deep work. It also goes into very deep emotional work, like the one viewer that we had asking about that intersection between career choices and social anxiety. Yeah. Also being able to prioritize and design our career experiences around things like growth and interest and excitement. That is going a lot deeper than figuring out, a job. And so I hope that through this conversation, you've gotten a lot of ideas and takeaways and hopefully some things that you can experiment with on your own. But if you do decide that you would like to do career counseling and, sit down with somebody like me and have conversations like this, I want you to just go into this with how to find the right person, because that can be a little bit challenging. Most professionals who do career counseling or career coaching are coming at this from a business background. They are not professional therapists. They had a job in HR, so they were like reading a lot of resumes and interviewing people, and now they are coaching people on how to do that, which is fantastic. We need that. But other, career coaches may have a similar background. And the types of things that we were talking about today here, this is me as a therapist who practices career counseling and career coaching. But so you're looking for somebody who is a licensed mental health professional, licensed psychologist, licensed practical counselor, etc., who has that foundation in deeper personal growth work, but then also can do career counseling and coaching as like a specialty on top of that. I do have an article on my website that I'll maybe share in the comments after this is over around how to find a good career counselor, which could be helpful for you, so that if you're looking for deeper growth experiences, you know who to go with. And then additionally too, because I am very excited about career counseling, and that's success. It's the Love, Happiness, and Success podcast. Even though we talk a lot about relationships and personal growth things, there's a lot of success in there too. And I have put together a podcast playlist with a bunch of different episodes that I've recorded over the years on things related to professional success and also, like, I think holistic life design, because that's part of it, right? Because, success is much bigger than having a certain job or earning a certain amount of money. Like, it's what does success mean to you as a person? And so that's kind of the angle that we discuss on the Love, Happiness, and Success podcast. But I will also add a link to this in the comments here that will give you access to this curated podcast playlist with just career-related podcast episodes that I've had. Just talk about different career topics, but also me talking with some of the other career counselors on my team here at Growing Self, or other career professionals that I've talked to over the years. So you can grab that here in the links, and I hope that those are helpful to you in finding your path forward. So thank you so much for spending this time with me today. And I hope you tune in next week. Next Thursday, I will be back. We're talking about emotional invalidation in relationships and the kind of communication that we can all inadvertently engage in that lead other people to feel emotionally invalidated, and how we can change that so that the people that we love feel cared for and respected by us. And of course, we'll also be talking about, what to do if you're in a relationship where you are feeling emotionally invalidated by your partner on a regular basis. So tune in for that. I'll be back here next Thursday at 12 p.m. Mountain, 2 p.m. Eastern, and I hope to see you there. Okay, thanks so much. Bye.